Decentralized betting markets, yay or nay? Hey and welcome, my name is Julian. I'm one of the co-founders of 10x here in Singapore. And on my personal channel, I don't want to talk so much about our company. I really want to just reflect a bit on blockchain, decentralization, cryptocurrencies to make people all around the world crypto fit. And today I want to talk about a bit of a different crypto application. It's actually a blockchain application more than a specific cryptocurrency, and it's decentralized betting. So it means we are talking about making a bet on something, but instead of either needing a third party that makes sure that the money then gets distributed if one person wins or loses the bet, we decentralize that. Most betting systems today are centralized in a way that you have a platform, and let's say I bet on the weather tomorrow and you bet against me. We both pay, let's say, $100 into the betting market, and then whoever wins receives the profits. Obviously, there's always some risks and some downsides. What if the platform shuts down? And the same thing could apply to poker. The same could apply to any other thing out there. And then obviously you have biased platforms. What if you disagree with a decision, right? There's so many questions when it comes to centralized markets, just like when it comes to money, right, with cryptocurrencies. So obviously this question has been, what happens if we decentralize that? What if we have a betting platform that either can be completely separate, where you have a betting platform that's its own blockchain and does nothing else than do bets, or it builds on top of another platform. Obviously very popular is Ethereum there, because you can code a ERC20 contract very, very simple, and then you have some contracts on top of Ethereum doing these bets. And the advantage of this is there's no censorship, right? You cannot be cheated on, in a sense that if an event happens and it can be shown that it happens, then that you don't get your money. I can highly recommend, and Ruben is going to be so nice and link up the video below. I made a video on oracles, basically how can you connect a blockchain to the outside world, and oracles are going to be needed, especially at the beginning, on deciding on who actually wins the bet, the left side or the right side, or one person or the other person. And so the question always remains, when we have this new blockchain application called decentralized betting, does it make sense to have such an application, or does it not make sense? What problem does it solve? And this is always what we need to start with, right? What problem is being solved? And I hear from most of these decentralized betting platforms that the problem that gets solved is that those bets that normally would be censored, or countries where betting might not be allowed or certain types of betting is not allowed, suddenly would be able to have access to this. Also, you suddenly have more liquid markets, because the problem is you don't many times have access to other betting platforms all around the world. So you have to stay locally due to regulations and rules. And so you have a very limited access to betting. And with a decentralized market that can't be censored, that's completely open, that's permissionless, suddenly you have access to everything. But here is the challenge, right? And this is really where the challenge comes. Whenever you try to compete against a centralized system based on cost, based on speed, based on possibilities, you most of the time lose out, because a centralized system, by definition, is more efficient than a decentralized system. A decentralized system always comes with a cost. There has to be some cost. Otherwise, creating a consensus is free, and creating a consensus that's free is just gonna, well, allow any group to redefine the consensus. And so when I made a separate video on that, and by the way, that separate video is not understood by a lot of people. That's why a lot of people on the comments don't get what it really means, how important it is to create consensus and have some kind of cost. Now, this cost doesn't always have to be visible, but it has to be there. So a centralized system will always be more efficient, will be cheaper, will be faster. Yes, maybe not at the beginning, but in a competition, it would be over time. So you need to think of what is the best way for a decentralized system to compete against a centralized system, especially when we talk about betting. And obviously this permissionless, this censorship resistant, is the most important use case in that sense, because anything else, access and so on, can be opened by centralized systems, and they will when they see the competition from decentralized systems. It's just very, very likely, otherwise everything's gonna move into the decentralized system. And then there's the question, what are the actual use cases for this? And just recently, and I'm not going to talk about the specific example because first of all, I definitely do not want to discourage a platform, and especially this is a platform where I know a lot of people personally. They're really good friends, co-founders actually of the platform that I know very well, and I definitely don't want to discourage them, or I don't want to disgrace them, but I just want to kind of point out problems that they are facing that they need to solve, right? And I'm doing such videos not because I want to discredit the project, on the exact opposite. I want to show that there's problems that still need to be solved for a decentralized betting platform to work. Because if there were no problems to be solved, there would probably be 50 platforms already and everything would be super successful. But so their massive problem has been that most betting use cases on there are actually what we would call illegal betting use cases. So betting use cases where if you had a centralized system, they would be censored, they would be audited. For example, and this one was the one that had the biggest outcry, and that was betting on assassinations. So this platform went live, and it didn't take long until people started betting on if Trump would survive 2018 or if he would get killed. Sarah Palin, this one senator in the US, and so on and so on. They even started betting on people who were really sick in hospital, and they were betting on how long these people would survive cancer. So without judging morals here, without judging legal, not legal, should this be allowed or not allowed, what I want to kind of point out there is how questionable these bets then become. Because yes, you might have people who say, well, what's the problem betting on this stuff? And then you have people who say, well, this is absolutely not okay to bet on someone's life. And I personally, I'm a very, very, very rational person. Would these bets be completely independent from the actual outcome? And I'm going to get to where I want to get to. My rational mind is not 100% sure if it would be illegal to bet on someone's life expectancy or someone's outcome, because then we would have a completely different question on, are insurances allowed to do how they calculate their fees? Are hospitals allowed to do what they are doing? Are certain treatments only allowed to be given to someone? And I worked in a hospital. I know that this is done based on probabilities of how long people are going to live, right? So I'm not sure my rational mind would totally disagree that it's illegal to bet on this. But here's where the actual moral problem comes. If enough people bet on the death of a person, these people can influence the event. So these people can actually influence if that person is going to die. And if there's enough economic interest for this person to die, someone will pull the trigger. And this is where the moral problem to me is absolutely rectified. And this is something that's super valid. If we bet on, is the sun going to shine tomorrow? Well, it doesn't matter. Even if 1 million people says the sun is not going to shine tomorrow, I highly doubt that 1 million people are going to manage for the sun not to shine tomorrow, right? It's just really difficult to bet on the outcome by influencing the outcome. But this is where a lot of moral challenge comes up, because people can bet on an outcome that they can, if enough interest is there, can start to influence. And so the major interesting question is going to be, how will these decentralized betting platforms that definitely have a right to be there, especially because it's important to challenge these centralized monopolies. So many gambling, poker, lottery stuff, betting stuff, all this is many times monopolized, is in states' hand, in government's hand. And it would be great to break up these monopolies. And decentralized platforms have the power to do so. But how can they solve these problems in not being a pool for only illegal bets, but actually can manage to attract liquidity for legal bets, like betting on soccer games, betting on the sun shining tomorrow, betting on some outcomes that are not as morally questionable as many of these bets are happening there right now. So I definitely think decentralized betting, very interesting blockchain application, but still a lot of questions to be solved. or questions raised to be solved by a very smart and talented entrepreneur. What I would love to know from you is, how do you see decentralized betting platforms? Do you see a real use case there? Let me know in the comments below. How do you think this problem of attracting illegal use cases, how would you avoid that? And what would be alternatives, or what would be the workarounds? I think one of the things we all agree on is, competition to a centralized system is super important, it's essential, and it's gonna force a centralized system either to go out of business or to improve to stay in business. And that is why I love decentralization so much, because it brings the necessary counterparty to centralization. And again, in no way I want to discourage friends of mine or people that I know really well. On the contrary, they know that these are challenging questions, and they know that they need to work on that. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And with this, see you at the next video. Yours truly, Julian.